Amazing transformation, Millionaire CEO discovers little girl in the snow, revealing hidden life. Tyler Reynolds, the golden boy of Chicago's tech scene, carried the weight of his empire on polished shoulders. In the world he ruled, spreadsheets glistened with numbers that could buy anything, yet a gnawing void nestled deep within him. Behind the sleek glass walls of his skyscraper, he chased profits and accolades, each quarter feeling more hollow than the last. A part of him, the part that had once dreamed of making a difference in the world, felt stifled under the relentless grind of corporate success. On this particularly bitter winter night, his thoughts were shackled to the impending board meeting. He stepped into his car, the engine's hum drowned out by the chaos in his mind, projections, margins, growth strategies. Yet, tonight, a subconscious urge diverted his route, pulling him into the snow-blanketed park. The soft crunch of snow underfoot echoed every bit of unease swelling in his chest, an odd contrast to the calm beauty surrounding him. Just as he allowed himself a moment of solace, a flicker of movement caught his eye. Huddled against a lonely park bench was a small figure, shivering, seemingly swallowed by the night. As he approached, his earlier worries melted away, replaced by a sudden urgency. It was a little girl, no older than 7, wrapped in thin layers that clung to her frail frame. Her haunted brown eyes, wide and filled with a mix of fear and resignation, pierced through the fog of his corporate cocoon. "What are you doing here alone?" Tyler asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Emma's gaze shifted downcast as she drew in a breath, summoning the strength to share her story, one of loss and survival. Her mother had vanished, and her father was ensnared in a world of despair. At that moment, Tyler felt a connection that shattered the polished image he curated. Beneath the facade of wealth lay a stark reminder of the disparities that plagued their world, a world he often overlooked in his pursuit of success. In a gesture of vulnerability, he knelt beside her, shedding his coat to envelop her shivering form. This act felt monumental, more than just resting her from the cold. It was uncharted territory for him. Emma's spirit shone through her struggles, igniting a longing in Tyler. He had once envisioned a life filled with meaning that extended beyond the glitter of corporate success. Here she was, a reflection of everything he craved yet had sacrificed on the altar of ambition. "I can help you," he murmured, uncertainty threading through his resolve. He could whisk her away to his luxurious home, stave off the night's chill, but beneath that impulse lay a fierce moral dilemma. Was he acting out of true compassion or simply to reclaim a piece of lost humanity? Yet, what was he if not a figure poised to help? Each moment blurred the lines between charity and self-rediscovery. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As Emma nestled closer, Tyler's thoughts spiraled. His skyscraper towers loomed above him, casting long shadows over their makeshift connection. He saw not just a girl, but shadows of the life he could have lived. The burdens of expectation from family weighed heavily. His ambitions had crafted an identity that felt more like a prison than a path to fulfillment. The crossroads appeared stark. He could drown in the comfortable cycle of corporate triumphs or risk everything to enact change. But then, as if summoned by destiny, troubling revelations began to surface. Emma's history pricked at the veneer of his existence, entwining her family's struggles with his own in a way that left gut-wrenching questions lingering in the air. Could he bear the responsibility of an honest legacy? Would embracing this little girl mean recognizing the privilege and isolation that had long defined him? As his heart raced and his breath quickened, Tyler's mind spun further. The night thickened around them, and as he wrestled with the burden of unresolved dilemmas, he understood, each snowflake that fell represented a choice waiting to be made, urging him to confront the truth of who he was and who he could become. The weight of Tyler's decision pressed like the harsh winter air against his chest. He glanced down at Emma, her tiny fingers trembling as they clutched his coat. For the first time in years, he felt a spark of unresolved purpose flicker within him, desperately vying for attention amid the clamor of his programmed ambitions. In this moment, standing in the snow, he faced the unsettling truth that his corporate conquests had not equipped him for the raw truths of humanity that lay before him. "Okay, let us get you someplace warm," he said, his voice steadier than he felt. The immediate decision to help her felt instinctual, almost primal, as if the universe had conspired to pull him from his cocoon of isolation. As he carefully lifted her into his arms, Tyler felt a rush of adrenaline, tempered by a growing recognition of his moral obligation. This was not merely an act of kindness, it was the first step toward reclaiming a part of himself that he hadn't realized he had lost. Once settled in his car, Emma wrapped herself tightly in his coat. The warmth of the interior contrasted sharply with the cold emptiness that had persisted within him. As he navigated through the city streets, he stole glances at her reflection in the rearview mirror. Her wide, innocent eyes sparkled with hope, yet they carried shadows of sorrow too profound for someone so young. It unnerved him, yet it ignited a fierce determination to do more. Upon arriving home, Tyler led Emma to the living room, furnished in sleek modernity that felt stark against the innocence she radiated. He fished out a blanket from a storage ottoman, draping it around her shoulders with a tenderness that surprised him. As she sank into the plush couch, he couldn't shake the feeling that this act of comfort came at a cost of commitment, a reckoning with parts of himself that had been dormant for too long. "Tell me about your mom," he prompted, the words feeling heavier than intended. Emma's lips pressed together, and Tyler noted a glimmer of reluctance cross her face. Yet he pushed forward, hunger for connection guiding him. He longed to understand the depths of her situation, recognizing that each layer she unveiled would not just reveal her story, but his own vulnerabilities. "She's lost," Emma finally whispered, her voice trembling. "I keep looking for her. I thought she would come back." A hollow pit formed in Tyler's gut. Lost. The word resonated, echoing against the backdrop of his own life. They were both searching her for her mother, and him for a meaningful identity beyond the absurdity of wealth and status. He had amassed success yet felt the gnawing ache of disconnection. What was he without empathy, without contributing to the lives of those who needed help? In that silence, a realization struck him. Somewhere along the relentless climb of his career, he had forsaken his values. Each click of a mouse in his office, every currency exchange, had taken him further from the compassion he once vowed to cultivate. Now, faced with this bewildering challenge, he had to confront the broken reflections of himself in Emma's story. As thoughts raced, he considered the road ahead. The boy who had once envisioned changing the world now had a child before him who was caught up in tragic circumstances. This moment could be pivot for transformation. He needed to channel his resources into something tangible and real, reclaiming his life by becoming the lifeline he felt compelled to be. But just as exhilaration bubbled within him, doubt crept in. Would he be up to the challenge? The business world had conditioned him to respond with logic and precision, devoid of feelings. Now, he stood on the precipice of not only guiding Emma but also exposing himself to the vulnerability that came with emotional investments. He drew in a deep breath, uprooting the weeds of uncertainty that tangled in his mind, preparing to take the next steps that leaned into risk and responsibility. What did it mean to truly help? At that very moment, Tyler decided he would leave no stone unturned in reclaiming meaning in both their lives. As snow continued to fall gently outside, he felt a potent urge to gather the fragments of his identity that he had overlooked. The next morning, he would seek answers to understand how he could fit into Emma's chaotic life, but also to unravel who he was becoming in the process. He watched her eyes drift closed, the heavy weight of sleep draping over her fragile form, and he knew the battle had just begun. The moment of truth was approaching, both for her and for him. What had begun as a simple act of kindness would soon become a journey of transformation. But for now, as he surveyed the stark contrast of his lavish home against the vulnerability of the girl nestled within it, Tyler grappled with a new reality, one that would demand he confront his choices and the person he wished to become. The true test awaited just beyond tomorrow's dawn. Tyler awoke with the first rays of dawn spilling through the sleek glass panels of his home, an unsettling tranquility filling the air. The sight of Emma, curled up on the couch, revealed a stark contrast to the restlessness still bubbling within him. The quiet moment magnified the gravity of the commitment he had unwittingly forged. In that stillness, the enormity of the transformation he had pledged to embrace gripped him. As Emma stirred awake, her eyes fluttered open like petals unfurling, Tyler felt her innocence steal away the remnants of his corporate facade. He had long since equated mornings with meetings, strategies, and performance metrics, but now, responsibility and hope blossomed into something unfamiliar yet tantalizing. It was as if each sunbeam pierced through his sleet-laden heart, igniting remnants of warmth he thought had long perished. "Good morning, Emma," he whispered, attempting to mask his internal whirlpool of anxiety. "Is it morning already?" She croaked, brushing her tangled hair aside. The uncertainty gripping her expressed what he felt as well, a yearning for stability and safety, a desire that transcended the mere act of giving her shelter. "We have a lot to talk about," he replied quietly, feeling the burden of that simple statement settle over them both. As they shared breakfast cereal for her and a strong cup of coffee for him, Tyler wrestled with the urge to remain a distant observer versus the desire to actively engage with her life. Each spoonful of cereal she took felt like a step into a new world, one Tyler had only glimpsed through tears and laughter. "Where do you want to go today?" he finally asked, a tentative excitement weaving its way into his voice. Emma bit into a piece of toast, pausing as though she was charting her future. "Can we go look for my mom?" The question dropped like a heavy stone into the otherwise buoyant air. The thought sent a shiver through Tyler. He hadn't anticipated the forthcoming complexity of this unasked-for journey. Her vision of hope was entwined with despair, and it begged his attention. He felt the unmistakable thrum of internal conflict. How could he shoulder the burden of finding someone who had been lost for so long? "Maybe we can start by talking to someone who can help," he suggested, trying to tread carefully on fragile emotional ground. Encouraged by the small nod she offered in reply, Tyler reached for his phone, feeling the familiar cool weight of it in his hand. This device had been a tool of his existence: business deals, stock performance monitoring, all detached from the corporeal world he now grappled with. He scrolled for social services in the area, brainstorming contacts while a storm of doubt brewed in his mind. Would it truly matter? Could he really help? Tyler? He looked up, and managed a smile that felt both genuine and fragile. "Yes. Are you going to help me?" Her question held the crystalline clarity of innocence, shaming him into acknowledgement of the two lives entwined in this daunting endeavor. "Of course," he said, his voice steadying. But inside, uncertainty stirred terribly. The danger of vulnerability loomed, the fear of failing her could unravel whatever purpose he had begun to grasp. As they prepared to leave, Tyler spotted his jacket hanging on the sofa. Its fabric felt laden with the weight of his past decisions, a constant reminder of the man he used to be versus the man he aspired to become. Zipping it up, he made a silent vow to discard the parts of himself that clung all too tightly to old identities. He would bring Emma with him both as a light in his transformation and as a navigator through her uncharted terrain. That day would not merely be about searching for her mother, it would test him, challenge every unexamined assumption, and invite him to delve deeper into his own neglected psyche. It was a convoluted dance of self-discovery, driven by the promise of redemption. With each step, he could feel the old Tyler fraying at the seams. As they stepped out into the cold, hand in hand, Tyler felt a thawing within him, a spark of possibility ignited by the pressing urgency of Emma's plight. With every breath, he sensed the deceptive clarity unfolding, a blend of purpose and passion intertwined with dread. The path ahead was laden with uncertainty, yet it held the potential for redemption. What would they discover as they ventured into the heart of Emma's world? Tyler's heart raced as a question loomed: how far would he go to pull Emma back to safety, and in the process, find the fragments of himself he thought he'd lost forever? The journey was just beginning, and it was fraught with peril. Yet, he couldn't shake the thrill pulsating within him, the undeniable sensation that change was on the horizon. As they stepped into the harsh light of the day, the chill in the air took hold, enveloping Tyler in reminders of his own cold existence. He adjusted his jacket, feeling the fabric brush against his skin like the weight of expectation pressing down. Each step alongside Emma felt like a tether to his fledgling resolve, a promise he was both anxious and eager to keep. They walked through the streets with purpose, the sound of their footsteps punctuated the tension swirling within him. Tyler glanced down at Emma, who seemed to be absorbing the world with wide-eyed wonder, unaware of the storm brewing inside him. It struck him as ironic. She was searching for a missing piece of her life, while he was busy trying to create a whole new existence. Did he even know how to help her? Or was he just trying to outrun his own ghosts? "All right, Emma, let's start with the local support services," he announced, forcing clarity into his voice. They headed to the community services building, its drab facade belied the crucial assistance it provided. Tyler felt a pang of trepidation. Entering these walls felt foreign, a stark departure from the glossy conference rooms and high-stakes negotiations he was used to. In the waiting area, a string of anxious individuals and families filled the seats, casting furtive glances at one another. Tyler observed the reactive body language, the way fingers danced nervously against thighs or feet tapped subtly on the floor. It dawned on him, behind the dazed expressions rested stories laden with sorrow, challenges echoing his own. Emma snuggled closer to his side, and he could feel her heart racing through the fabric of his jacket. He leaned down to whisper, "We're going to find you the help you need. It's a step in the right direction." But as he said it, doubt gnawed at him. Was he being naive? The enormity of her situation could drown even the bravest among them. The clock ticked loudly, a metronome marking the tension riding high as he fought against the urge to retreat. He had a choice to make. He could either step forward into the chaos of the moment or cling to the familiar reluctance that had defined too much of his life. When his name was called, he straightened, feeling an odd blend of determination and fear surge through him. They entered the cramped office, and the social worker, a woman with weary eyes and a warm smile, began to assess Emma's situation. "Emma, can you tell me about your mom?" the worker gently prodded, her tone laced with compassion. Watching Emma wrestle with her words, Tyler felt an ache for her long-held hope and uncharted sorrow. It was painful to witness, yet there was power in her struggle and inner strength embodied in her innocent determination. As Emma began to speak, Tyler found himself entranced by her bravery. The way she shared her memories of her mother, distant yet vibrant, ignited a spark of vulnerability within him. He began to understand that by helping her unravel her past, he could also peel away his own layers, the corporate persona that had locked away his capacity for empathy and connection. Each word that spilled from her mouth urged him to confront a neglected aspect of himself, pushing him further down the path of self-discovery. He had always prided himself on being a problem solver, but could he now apply that skill to the intricacies of human emotion and relationships? With renewed resolve, Tyler made up his mind, he would not shy away from this endeavor. The beauty in Emma's struggle mirrored the shadows of his own life, illuminating the path he needed to traverse. As Emma finished her recounting, he felt her tension dissipate slightly, and he nudged forward with a commitment he didn't fully understand yet embraced wholeheartedly. "We'll do everything we can, Emma. I promise," he stated with conviction, realizing in that moment the gravity of his commitment. The social worker nodded appreciatively, shifting her gaze towards him. "It's beneficial for you both. Supporting one another can yield unexpected strength." Tyler contemplated her words seriously. What if her insight could hold the key for both of them? With every challenge they encountered in this search for Emma's mother, Tyler understood he was embarking on a twofold expedition of healing. Stepping back outside, they found the sun hiding behind a layer of clouds, mirroring the complicated tapestry of emotions unfolding within him. He squeezed Emma's hand a little tighter. But as they made their way down the sidewalk, a sharp ring of a cell phone broke through his bubbling thoughts. It was an unknown number. "Tyler?" A voice came through crackling, bearing urgency. "We need to talk about your company's recent developments." His heart sank. The offer to return to his corporate life loomed over him, eager to pull him back into the abyss from which he was trying to escape. Would he let old ties dictate his new path, or stand firm as a new protector for Emma? His grip on her hand tightened further as he weighed the weight of his dual existence, knowing now, more than ever, that it was time to choose. The sudden ring of the cell phone lingered in the air like a dense fog, leaving Tyler torn between two worlds. Emma's bright eyes, shimmering with hope, clashed with the shadow of his corporate past. The intensity of the moment hung thick in the air, a palpable representation of his inner turmoil. Give me a moment," he said, stepping away with some hesitance, his thumb instinctively typing the call on hold. He needed a second and opportunity to process the weighty implications of the offer that threatened to drown out the tenuous promise he had just made to Emma. Despite the sterile environment surrounding him, Tyler felt an emergence of heat rising from his core. Distantly, he could hear the family noises of the waiting area, the hushed voices, the flickering of the overhead lights, even the sporadic coughs. But it all blurred as he turned inward, recalling the endless nights of relentless ambition and hollow victories that had paved his corporate ascent. "Tyler, we really need you back on board," the voice continued, persistent and laced with urgency. "There are major decisions to make, and frankly, you're the best person for the job." The compliment landed uncomfortably, and his pulse quickened. He could sense the firm tug of his old life, a siren call that promised dignity, power, and all the glamorous trappings that came with success. Yet, beneath that facade, something deeper stirred, a desire to move towards something authentic, to detach from the exhausting pretense that had suffocated him for too long. Rubbing his palm against the rough denim of his jeans, he glanced back at Emma. She was patiently waiting, her small figure a beacon against his relentless doubts. Her struggle was not only a pursuit of her mother but a reminder of what life could mean: real connections, vulnerability, and the chance to matter beyond boardroom transactions. Could he dive into this new depth of authenticity while this call beckoned him toward the expansive certainty of the corporate ladder? The inevitable answer rose within him, loud and clear. He had to set forth into the unfamiliar, to not only protect Emma but to redefine his own essence. "Look, I need time to think this over," Tyler replied firmly, each word resonating with newfound clarity. "I'm no time for that. The board is counting on you. We need you back now." The urgency grew frantic, pushing Tyler to the limits of his comfort. But he felt an unexpected satisfaction swell within him as he disconnected the call, the sudden silence of his phone creating a firm conclusion to the conversation. It was a symbolic severance of the chains that had bound his spirit for years. "Emma," he said, turning back with a renewed heart, "I'm here for you. That's what matters." She blinked up at him, an innocent understanding reflected in her gaze. He dropped to her level, locking eyes with her as he gauged her reaction. "It's going to be tough, but we'll figure it out together." With palpable determination, Tyler began to walk alongside Emma once more, their hands laced tightly. Each step away from the community building illuminated not only the path they tread but the budding fortitude emerging within him. It was as though he was beginning to shed his past skin and rediscover a resilient spirit he had long buried. Yet as they turned a corner, a figure loomed ahead, a man he didn't recognize, standing against the flickering light of a street lamp, his expression grim. The sense of foreboding in the air thickened, pulling at Tyler's gut. This might be another level of the labyrinth he had unwittingly stepped into. "Tyler Thompson, I presume?" the man said, the words slinking through the air as heavy as lead. The surprise left Tyler momentarily speechless. He felt Emma stir beside him. This unexpected confrontation could unravel everything he had committed to in this newfound journey. The stakes had escalated, and it was clear now that his choices were encountering external forces beyond just his personal evolution. Would he be strong enough to face whatever lay ahead while ensuring Emma's safety? The moment had arrived for him to confront shadows that threatened his resolve. The figure before Tyler seemed to loom, a tangible embodiment of the shadows he had tried to escape. The street lamp's light flickered, casting sharp angles across the stranger's face, accentuating lines of weariness and authority. Tyler's chest tightened. He couldn't tell if it was fear or the lingering thrill of defiance bubbling inside him. "Who wants to know?" Tyler replied, forcing his voice to sound steady. Despite the bravado, he felt the ground shift beneath him, swirling with doubts he thought he had buried. "Let us not play games, Mr. Thompson," the man retorted, his cold eyes piercing through Tyler's composure. "You've been out of the game long enough. But we need to talk about a few things, namely, the consequences of your recent choices." Emma tugged at Tyler's hand, her grip tightening as the air around them thickened. She was aware that something was off but lacked the understanding of the broader implications. For her, this was unfamiliar territory. For Tyler, it was a landscape riddled with pitfalls. "What do you mean?" Tyler asked, trying to keep his voice steady as he focused on the man's demeanor, searching for vulnerability amidst the menace. "Oh, come now," the stranger scoffed, "you know exactly what I mean. Your little detour into fatherhood doesn't come without its complications. There are people who don't take kindly to you abandoning your responsibilities." With those words, the confidence Tyler had assembled in announcing his intentions began to crack. The notion that his decision to stand next to Emma could have sweeping repercussions weaved through his mind. He had pictured a future filled with emotional rebirth, a landscape where connections mattered more than deals, but now the stark reality of his past encroached with ruthless clarity. "So, you're here to threaten me?" Tyler snapped back, stoking the embers of defiance like a shield against his fears. The man's smirk was chilling. "Not a threat, just a reminder," he leaned in, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "You're entering a dimension where your choices hold weight far more than they ever did in that sterile office. You have the potential to create something real, but don't be naive. Shadows linger, and they don't fade easily." Tyler inhaled deeply, steadiness eluding him as he caught Emma's concerned expression. "Let us go, Emma." He turned, his protective instincts snapping into high gear. But the man's voice called after him. "You'll want to think about this carefully. You may believe that you're redefining yourself, but the past never stays buried forever." As Tyler guided Emma away, he felt an unsettling mix of fear and resilience. Each step forward felt like a balancing act over an abyss he could improve himself, yet the specters of his decisions might rise to claim him at any moment. What was it that empowered him to resist the old life? Was it Emma's unwavering trust in him? Her belief in the promise of a better future perhaps? Or was it the muted voice within him that insisted he prove not just to her but to himself that he was capable of change? "Tyler." Emma's small voice cut through his whirlwind thoughts as they paused at the corner of the street. "Are you okay?" He forced a smile, the act bringing comfort both to her and to himself, and wrapped an arm around her shoulders. "Yeah, just thinking. Let us get you home." As they made their way through the winding streets, Tyler's mind raced with conflicting thoughts. His personal evolution was not merely a journey of self-discovery, it bore the weight of significant choices, now burdened with unforeseen external pressures. Each encounter he faced had the potential to unravel the progress he believed he was making. Would he find a way to navigate this unforeseen darkness while ensuring Emma's safety, or would the shadows of his past bleed into their future? The thought loomed like a dark cloud overhead. The unmistakable sound of footsteps followed them as they turned a corner, an echo of uncertainty that made Tyler's heart race. Was it the man from the street? Or was he already being hunted? He had a feeling that the stakes were about to get a lot higher. With uncertainty gripping him tighter than before, Tyler steeled himself for the confrontation that lurked just ahead. The path of his transformation was riddled with hazards, and the moment had arrived for him to prove his commitment to the cause. Tyler's senses heightened with each step as he navigated the dimly lit streets. The rhythm of their hurried footsteps echoed amidst the silence, punctuated only by the occasional rustle of leaves or the distant sound of a car speeding past. Despite the mundane surroundings, his pulse thrummed wildly. The shadows danced in the corners of his vision, and he could almost feel them pulling him back, seeking to reclaim the life he had fought so hard to escape. "Tyler, are we being followed?" Emma's timid voice broke through, and he glanced down at her. Her wide eyes were filled with uncertainty. "No, it's just in my head." He said more to convince himself than her, but a deep-seated uneasiness gnawed at his courage. The stranger's words had dug into his psyche, echoing the fears he had long tried to ignore, the risks he now faced as a father trying to forge a new existence. He guided Emma into a small cafe, the warm glow of yellow lights inviting them in. The comforting aroma of coffee enveloped him, but it failed to ease the tension sitting heavy in his chest. They found a secluded corner, and as Emma settled down at the table, he took a moment to compose himself. He needed clarity. Tyler's thoughts raced back to the man's chilling reminder: the past never stays buried. Was he still shackled to the remnants of who he once was? In this new role as a father, every choice now seemed fraught with weight. Protecting Emma meant he had to confront not only his past but also the complexities of his present aspirations. "So, what are we doing here?" Emma asked, pulling him from his thoughts. He smiled at her, refusing to let his fears overshadow their time together. "Just getting some hot chocolate before we head home." "I like that idea." She beamed back at him, and the innocence of her smile brought a flicker of hope igniting in his chest. As they waited for their drinks, Tyler's mind wrestled with his internal conflict. He had ambitions to climb higher in life, to build something substantial not only for himself, but for Emma's future. But now, the shadows were threatening to unravel it all. He needed a plan. The tiny cafe's walls were adorned with local artwork that illuminated the different paths one could take in life. Each painting seemed to scream for individuality, bold colors against subdued backgrounds representing courage, hope, and metamorphosis. Would he be able to draw upon those characteristics to solidify his commitment to this new path? "Tyler." Emma's voice interrupted once more. "You're frowning again." "I'm okay, kiddo. Just thinking about how we can make today a special day." Their drinks arrived, and as Emma took her first sip, delight sparkled in her eyes, a reminder of the simple joys in life. In that moment, Tyler realized that his evolution wasn't just about escaping his past, it was about embracing newfound responsibilities while learning to find joy amidst chaos. Yet, as he watched Emma laugh and enjoy her chocolate, a tremor of uncertainty lingered. What if those shadows found him? What if he failed in keeping her safe? He had to identify his resources and stand firm against the darkness. This was a new battle, and he needed to prepare for the confrontations awaiting him. Just as he settled on a newfound determination, the cafe door swung open, and a gust of cold air swept in. A shadow crossed his path, a figure lingering at the entrance, scanning the room before locking eyes with Tyler. A chill shot down his spine as recognition hit him like a punch to the gut. The man from the street, a ghost of his recent past, was here, stepping into his present with stakes higher than ever. The moment of truth arrived, and Tyler was thrust into a high-stakes confrontation he never anticipated. Would he stand his ground, defy the ghost that haunted him, and protect Emma? Tyler's instincts ignited as he locked eyes with the man. An electric tension pulsed through the cafe, altering the atmosphere, pinning Tyler in place. The realization that this figure, this specter from his past, had stepped into his carefully constructed present felt like a breach, an invasion. He had come to this place in search of sanctuary, a refuge for Emma, and now it seemed like a stage set for reckoning. "Stay close," Tyler whispered, his voice low but urgent, intent on shielding Emma from the oncoming storm. He felt the familiar flicker of fight or flight coursing through his veins. This wasn't just about him anymore. This was about protecting everything that mattered. The man, a silhouette of mischief and menace, took a step forward, a sly smile creeping onto his face. "Tyler, long time no see. Miss me?" His voice dripped with mockery, a reminder of the past Tyler had tried so hard to escape. Tyler's jaw clenched. Every instinct insisted he ignore the man, focus instead on Emma, to maintain an illusion of normalcy. But there would be no ignoring this confrontation. Not anymore. The stakes were high, his past and future colliding in the most petrifying way. "Do you really want to dance today?" Tyler's tone shifted, sharpened, less a plea, more a challenge. He was sitting at the verge of an abyss where either side could plunge him into chaos. This was the crossroads he feared, but also one he realized he could not shy away from. The man leaned against the cafe's entrance, arms crossed, embodying calm even in the storm. "You always were one for theatrics, Tyler. But they say it's the quiet ones you have to watch. You never know what they're planning." Tyler diverted his gaze to Emma, whose eyes darted between the two men. Her innocence fueled his resolve, galvanizing him to reclaim his narrative. He felt for his phone, ready to execute contingency plans if needed. He didn't just want to confront his past, he needed to dismantle it piece by piece. "What do you want?" Tyler's voice was firm, cutting through the tension. The question hung heavily in the air, charged with the echoes of every past choice he regretted. He searched within himself for the resolve to stand strong, to protect Emma as a father, not just as a man steeped in shadows. "Just checking in on you, my old friend. Heard you've been trying to play the family man." He paused, relishing the moment. "I thought I could lend a hand." Tyler's stomach churned. The insinuation coursed through him like venom. The last thing he needed was any help from a ghost who thrived in the shadows. He had mindfully built a life away from the chaos, worked diligently to forge a path that secured Emma's safety. And here it all threatened to unravel once again, like fragile strands of a spider's web. "Your help isn't needed," Tyler managed, feeling the weight of each word. But would mere words suffice against someone representing his misdeeds? "Walk away." "Well, you see, that's where we disagree." The man's smile widened, revealing the darkness behind it. The confrontation was escalating, turning his carefully curated world on its head. Tyler felt a sudden tightness in his chest, a realization dawning that this wasn't just a conversation, it was a trial. In that moment, he understood, the man standing before him wasn't just a remnant of his past, he was a challenge demanding resolution. "Emma," Tyler said with urgency, "everyone, stay where you are. This doesn't concern you." The cafe buzzed faintly with idle chatter, particularly oblivious to the rising tension at the back. Tyler's heart raced with the knowledge that he was not merely fighting for himself anymore. The stakes had transformed. In a moment of reckoning, Tyler inhaled deeply, knowing he had to rise to this occasion. Glaring into the depths of the very past he sought to escape, an idea surged: what if confronting this threat was the only way to secure freedom for himself and Emma? The room plunged into silence, with all eyes drawn to the impending confrontation. Tyler braced himself, ready to rewrite his narrative, to finally cast off the bond that had held him captive for so long. But then, a new sound broke through the sudden blare of a siren outside. A choice loomed ahead, and as Tyler processed the implications of this disruption, everything turned. Would he leverage this unexpected interruption to gain the upper hand, or would he retreat back into his past, perpetually tethered? The siren's wail echoed through the cafe, a relentless reminder of the world beyond this moment, this confrontation. Tyler's body felt almost weightless as adrenaline surged, propelling a mixture of calculations and emotions. The man's smug demeanor remained, but a flicker of uncertainty crossed his features. Tyler sensed a crack in the facade, an opportunity to push back against the shadows of his past. "Time to make your move, Tyler," he reminded himself mentally, steeling his resolve. Every second counted, and retreat was no longer an option. Emma remained beside him, confusion marring her innocent face. He hadn't wanted her near this confrontation, but the unfolding chaos demanded clarity. Tyler squeezed her hand, silently communicating strength and reassurance. If he was firmly decided on one thing, it was that Emma deserved to see her father as a protector, not a prisoner of fears. "Listen, it's over," Tyler said, his voice low yet firm. "You don't get to waltz back into my life and think you have a claim to anything. I've made something of myself without you, and I intend to keep it that way." The words left his mouth with the weight of an oath. It was a vow not just to the man he faced but to the life he painstakingly built. A brief silence enveloped them, filled only by the strains of murmured conversations and clinking coffee cups, moments of everyday life blissfully unaware of the storm brewing in their midst. The man tilted his head, considering Tyler's words, the mocking glint in his eye fading just slightly. "You've always been good at convincing yourself that you can outrun your past. But what happens when it catches up?" He sneered, his tone dripping with disdain. There it was, a provocation, baiting Tyler to respond in anger. Instead, Tyler redirected his focus inward, recalling the struggles of his ascent from the shadows. He had fought through doubt, redefined his values, and transformed from a man cursed by his choices into one determined to shape his destiny for Emma's sake. "You don't get to define my narrative anymore," Tyler replied, the confidence in his voice surprising even himself. He realized this wasn't merely about standing his ground, it was about recognizing his growth, the transformation from victim to warrior. The sirens outside continued to blare, growing increasingly urgent, and suddenly, Tyler had an idea, a way to seize control. "Stay right here," he instructed Emma, and with a quick glance to ensure she was safe, he stepped toward the man. "Are you afraid I'll tell everyone the truth?" Tyler questioned, taking a calculated breath. "The truth about the mess you left behind?" "I'll gladly take that chance if it means keeping Emma safe." The taunt hung in the air, and for the first time, Tyler saw the man shift, the bravado cracking slightly. Tyler sensed the shift in power, an anchor of control he had longed for. "Your threats are laughable, Tyler. You've positioned yourself as some kind of hero, but no one will believe you," he scoffed, although his voice lacked the previous confidence. "Maybe," Tyler admitted, holding the man's gaze with unyielding determination. "But I'll fight with everything I have to protect her." Emboldened, he stepped back, letting Emma's small frame anchor him amidst the chaos. The sirens were now a lullaby of urgency in the background, propelling him to make a choice. As uncertainty washed over him yet again, he had to decide not just on a reaction to the threat, but how he would allow this moment to shape him. Before dissatisfaction could cloud his thoughts, a familiar strength surged within him. The convergence of his two worlds, the past and present, honed Tyler's resolve, framing the narrative of growth he wished to own. Yet just as the tension reached its peak, the cafe door swung open, bringing with it a flurry of icy air. Tyler's heart raced as he turned to see figures clad in uniforms, determination etched on their faces. Were they there to confront him, or had they come to uncover the dark undercurrents brewing just moments before? In that split second, as distraction surrounded him, a new realization washed over Tyler. This confrontation could lead to unexpected revelations about his own strength. What might he discover about his own capabilities in this unanticipated clash of life? The uncertainty loomed, pulsing with the potential for transformation. How far was he willing to go to protect Emma, to redefine his legacy? For Tyler, the answer remained just beyond reach, a tantalizing reminder that confronting the past might yield secrets he had yet to unravel. Would he embrace this turmoil as an opportunity, or would he falter as the fabric of his present threatened to unravel? The arrival of the uniformed officers felt like a weight lifting from his shoulders, the tension in the cafe stewing in a hushed reverence. Tyler glanced at Emma, her innocent eyes wide with bewilderment, and in that moment, he felt his perspective shift. What once felt like a suffocating confrontation now bore the promise of liberation. His past would no longer dictate their path, not when the potential for a safer future stood at the threshold. "Step aside, folks," a commanding voice broke through the chaos, cutting across the noise like a knife. Two officers entered, their expressions a blend of authority and concern as they assessed the situation. Tyler felt himself straighten, the fear that had threatened to consume him dissipated, coursing a surge of empowerment through him. "Everything is fine," he began, testing the waters as the officer's attention turned to him. "Just a misunderstanding." But even as he spoke, he felt a shift deep within him, a resolute determination to stop underestimating the power of his own voice. "Is it really?" one officer countered, stepping closer. "We're getting reports of suspicious activity." The way she glanced at Tyler told him she wasn't easily swayed by surface appearances. This was a moment of reckoning, they were dissecting every layer of his identity. The man at the cafe's entrance, his smirk fading, appeared to regain his footing. "I think there's been a mistake," he chimed in, feigning nonchalance. But beneath his bravado, Tyler could sense a flicker of fear and emotion too familiar from the dark days of his past. Was there a call made regarding an abandoned child? The second officer asked, piercing through the tension with undeniable curiosity. The implication landed heavy, drawing concerned glances from the other patrons. Tyler turned to Emma, whose gaze darted fearfully between the two worlds colliding before them, her father's uncertain confrontation with this dark shadow and the officer's investigating presence. Tyler's heart thudded as he realized the opportunity that lay before him. He needed to stand firm not just as a protector but as a force for change, not just for Emma but for himself. This was a pivot point, a chance to reclaim and redefine everything he'd worked so hard to establish. No, no. She's not abandoned, Tyler interjected, taking a bold step forward. She's not just a child lost in someone else's chaos, she's Emma, and I'm her father. This is a misunderstanding. The rest of his past hung in the air like a phantom, but he refused to let it control him. This guy isn't who he claims to be, the other man shot back, indignation threading his voice. He's got history, a pattern. You shouldn't trust him. For a moment, Tyler's stomach churned. Would his past of ambition and poor choices swallow him whole? It doesn't matter. Tyler exclaimed, fervently. What matters is that Emma has a chance to grow up without the shadows of those mistakes looming over us. I'm done with hiding behind facades. I choose to nurture something better. The officers waved a hand, cautiously moving closer to assess the room. The air was thick with tension, filled with unspoken stories as patrons murmured anxiously. Tyler took advantage of the moment, his voice rising above the murmurs. I know where I've been, who I've been. I'm ready to step into light, to embrace responsibility. I'm here to support Emma, and that begins by defining a stronger future for her. Yes, there are shadows that linger, but I no longer fear them. His words hung provocatively, encapsulating his evolution. Tyler felt a sense of liberation not from external validation but through personal acceptance. Emma squeezed his hand, her trust in him reaffirming the promise he felt toward her. In that moment, the resolve in his voice faltered for neither fear nor doubt. You want proof? Tyler continued, looking directly at the officers with steadfast resolve. Let me show you, not just through my words but through my actions. You'll see I am capable of change. I can take responsibility. I'm committed to giving her a life that is emotionally secure. And safe. The officers exchanged glances, assessing the atmosphere, weighing the transformations Tyler had vocalized. Their faces softened slightly, intrigue mixing with wariness, but there was less hostility, more acknowledgement of the gravity of his words. Tyler could feel the tension shift. The lightness of standing true in his intentions began to illuminate the room, tugging him closer to the resolution he sought. The man who had once haunted him stepped aback, aware of the changing tide. This isn't over, Thompson, he warned with a wavering veneer of power. But that was the past. Tyler met his gaze, solidified in the resolve of not succumbing to the darkness that had once defined him. It's over when I say it is, he replied, steady. Moments later, the officers nodded. Okay, one of them said, breaking the thick tension. Let us hear you out. We need to take this step by step. With that, Tyler felt the weight of not just release but achievement, the transformation from being haunted by shadows to standing firmly in light, fully defined by the choices he was making and the life he wanted to shape. As he sat down again next to Emma, affection and strength surged through him. The path from that moment on would not be easy, challenges would persist. Yet, what loomed ahead was the promise of steady growth, reshaping their legacy together. In this confrontation, the distance between Tyler's past turmoil and the hope of a brighter future closed significantly. Here he was, holding his own against the shadows, ready to face whatever next steps awaited, knowing the best part was yet to come. In the journey of redefining himself for his daughter, he realized this was just a step toward accountability but also the initiation of achieving the life and the bond he had always desired. It was time for him to conquer those shadows for good. Afterward, as the cafe settled back into its familiar rhythm of distant conversations and laughter, Tyler found joy in knowing the most significant success he could achieve was the safety and love he offered Emma. It marked not just a change in their story but a rallying cry for the ongoing fight for redemption both within and around them. Now, he was reborn. Instead of constantly running, he was ready to embrace the challenges of a new beginning. This is your moment. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and theories about this fulfilling ending. And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this inspirational conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share. True fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.